Kia ora, Tefano, back again. This time we're talking about website maintenance, what you need to know. Here with James. Kia ora, James.
Kia ora, Nick. Kia ora,
Uh,
whānau.
Kia ora, Tefano. Some advice organizations and businesses need to know about website maintenance. Bro, this doesn't really sound like a sexy topic. Give
Nah,
us,
it's not a.
anything with the word maintenance, and it doesn't really sound like, yeah. Anyway, but give us a bit of an overview on what is website maintenance.
Yeah, sure. So think of it like your car. When your car needs to go in for its warrant fitness check and it needs an oil change and it just needs sort of maintaining. Your website's the same as well, depending on what platform it sits on. So if you're running and looking after and managing your website yourself, if you're on a platform like WordPress, for example, then you need to make sure that that website software that's running that website is maintained and it's kept up to date. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what maintenance is and who it applies to.
Yeah, so why is website maintenance important?
All right. So the first reason why website maintenance is important is for performance. You need to make sure that your website is regularly maintained so that it's always working at its best and it's providing a good user experience. For security, and this is probably the big one that gets mostly everybody, is if you don't make sure that that website is updated regularly and the core software underneath that is updated, then your website is open to hackers and malware. And in my lifetime, I've probably seen over 50 websites being hacked, and then we've had to go back and then get a backup of that website and restore it back to what it was before, and then put the updates in place. So for those who really rely on their website as their storefront or shopfront, you need to make sure that your website is kept up to date for those main two reasons. The other one is for SEO. So you want to make sure that your website is maintained to fix any sort of site errors that might happen, or so that Google can find its way around easily. And the last one is around trust. So making sure that your website is maintained also builds trust with the audience that is visiting your website. And that way you're showing that, since your website is being looked after and it's maintained, you really care about your people online that are visiting it. So a poorly maintained website builds no trust at all. And Google doesn't trust those websites either. So they'll eventually derank your website or take you off their search listing.
Yeah, I mean, many times I go to a website on my phone or even on the desktop that I'm on right now, and it's taking a while to load. And when I mean a while, it's taking 3 seconds to load, right? So we're in 2023. We want everything, boom, right now. Okay. And if it's 3 seconds and I can see the little bar kind of like progressing, I'm pretty much gone, right? A lot of people are just gone. They're like, well, this isn't loading, so now I'm on to the next one.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds pretty harsh, but it's just the world that we're living in, have been living in now actually for quite a long time.
Yeah.
In terms of that security, I've been to websites where on my browser it pops up, says cannot load because it's not secure, and I don't want to go to those websites. I love my laptop too much to bring on any kind of, I don't know what you call them, malware or viruses into my laptop. So I'm not going to any of those websites. Yeah, and I can talk into the SEO thing as well. If you've got some broken links on your website, if you've got pages that don't load on your website, that's going to hurt your SEO, your search engine ranking. And I think trust is just goes back to what I was saying before. I don't trust those websites that are not secure, that don't have the little lock. I think it's up in the top left hand corner where the website is, where the website address is. So yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. But just kind of going back to what I was saying before, if you're kind of on those other platforms, those kind of Weebly's and your Wixes and your kind of Squarespace, it's all kind of housed into one. I suppose that's one of the benefits of having those websites, right?
Yeah, that is definitely the benefit of being on there. You don't have to maintain their software, they're maintaining it for you. But that's also why you pay the fee for maintaining those websites as well. The other thing too with those types of platforms is you have to have that platform live, or basically that software needs to exist for your website to be online. And if that software was to ever be bought out by a company or was to be shut down for whatever reason, you're going to lose your website and you're going to lose all of the data that's housed with that website. So it's important to, think about why you're building this website, and who's going to look after your data, who owns that website, and is it easily shiftable? And that's some of the questions we run through during our discovery sessions. Is this a website that we can build on those platforms, or is it a website that you can maintain and look after yourself with some support?
Copy. Okay, so we've got an idea of what it is. Talk us through us and Rise, and what are some of those tasks, and is it like a daily thing, a weekly thing, a monthly thing? Can you just talk us through some of those things?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to WordPress websites, the first thing we're going to be doing is updating the software regularly. So we go through the website and we update that WordPress website twice a month. And we make sure that all of the software that's on there is updated on the 1st of the month and also on the 15th. That's just to make sure that you've got the freshest version of whatever WordPress software is out there at the moment. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to monitor performance. So we're going to look into making sure that your website is performing, loading under that 3 seconds you talked about, and then look at ways we can improve that. So we will provide you with a report each month that says, hey, this page here, or this your site's loading quite slow, or you might be getting what we call website visitors coming onto your website and leaving within 10 seconds. So we call that bouncing. So they might be bouncing off your website quite quickly. You heard of that bouncing before, Nick?
Yeah, definitely have. High bounce rate's not good, which means that people that are coming onto your website not interested, that they're not sticking around, and they're just leaving. So it's like walking into the shop. I always use the analogy: someone's walked into the bakery, walked into a shop, they've looked around, everything looks good, but then they've just left. They haven't actually bought anything. That's not good.
Yeah, hard out. The third thing we're going to do is look at the security on the website. So we're going to check to make sure that any of the security functions are all working correctly. So we're pretty much going to put a brick wall for anyone trying to access the website as well. We put on what we call two-factor authentication, which I'm sure many of you are already aware of. And that just makes sure that anyone trying to log into the back end of your website, into the admin area, they have to have a mobile number, and that is all verified through our security software. So that's probably another thing we do different to some of the other plugins that are out there and a lot of the other websites. Then also we're going to check the functionality. So we're going to make sure that your forms are working. We do 2 checks per month, and we'll go onto your website, we'll fill out the contact form, and then we will make sure, we'll send you an email to say, hey, did you get our contact form response? And you'll respond back to us. If you don't respond, then we'll flick you over a text message to say, hey, did you get that response? And if you still don't respond, then we'll call you and say, hey, did you get that? So just some, added value that you'll get sort of from that angle. We'll make sure that your website's backed up regularly as well. So not only when you make a change to the website, so if you're in there changing photos, you can choose to back up that website, do a manual backup, but we also we have the capability to do hourly backups, and also daily is pretty much the standard for us. And then the last one is just making sure that the content on your website is fresh and kept up to date. So that comes from the support angle on one of our plans that we offer, where we can update that website content and update the blog, or put on, sort of new content to keep it fresh.
Nice. And I can definitely see the benefit of that. If you're on one of those, and I suppose I'm just going to reiterate it, if you are on one of those big company platforms, this is definitely not something that you need. But I suppose when you start looking at, because those platforms got some very strict limitations to what you can and can't do on those websites. They're great for getting started, but we find that once an organization starts growing and they start wanting some functionality and customization and all that sort of stuff, they typically move away from that, and they come on to, you mentioned WordPress, and the other one that we use is Webflow.
Yeah,
Webflow,
definitely.
And these are fully customizable, and with that though comes some, I wouldn't say vulnerabilities, but it comes some things where we need to maintain security and all those sorts of things within the website, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people, they look at WordPress and they go, oh, they think it's quite a cheap option, because some people offer really cheap WordPress websites, but then you've got all the support and maintenance with it. And so the other option is, you obviously got Squarespace and Wix, but Webflow is a great platform because you can export your whole website off their platform and go and host it somewhere else. If you want to make updates, you do have to go back to Webflow and import or update the website over there. But they give you that export option, and the reason they do that is because if your website, if they were to ever shut down and Webflow no longer existed, you would still have your website, and it could still be housed somewhere on somebody else's web server. So that's why we use Webflow. We're either going to, if you come with Rise, you're either going to get a WordPress website or you're going to get a Webflow website. It's as simple as that. We only use those two platforms. But yeah, pretty much those are the pros and cons of both of them as well.
There you have it at the iwi. Website maintenance, some of our tasks that we run through, the platforms that we're on. If you're in need of someone to maintain your website, ensure that it's secure, and all those things that was talked about today, get in contact with the team on our website. There's a contact us, or if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link below and you can come through to our website as well. Mō te ore te whānau.